Grandmama used to pray, oh Lord, please save them from the evil snares and all the dangers that entangle. Yea, though they walking through the valley of the shadows, just prepare and make them fit for every battle, because I know they bound to come, and I know they bound to fall, but in your bounty, Lord, preserve their beautiful. Right, we still surviving off of grandma's prayers, surrounded by the jungle and the lion's den. Tread light, cause these traps is inconspicuous. They hide right in plain sight, thinking we don't see them when they linger. Look right beneath the surface, then leave a trail of corpses. Crisis, prices, your life a disposable commodity, like living in a fantasy, conditioned to believe that the system even cares whether selling CDs or walking or driving or reading. Look, they don't even need a reason, it's just you breathing and being black. When it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all, at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming bloody murder. It got me screaming. This gritty city got me on some. Look, get your hand up on my pocket. Distraction, so lazy they use the same tactics, like condom with some trinkets. Just don't let them get to thinking. That light bulb gets a blinking. You know niggas and ideas. Oh dear, my dear, you may not know me, but I know you very well. Foresight, they say hindsight is 2020. Well, tell me something, we gotta see that history is on repeat, and maybe it takes a beat and a melody to speak a little louder than the message in the clouds or the essence in the air. I swear, my God is just so clear that a system driven by fear can never give us nothing but more of the same things. Oh, when it's such a pretty fall, it don't seem like we falling at all. It's just a GMO dream, where things are never really what they seem. Please cue the violins, tell them just to play me something pretty, cause this gritty city got me screaming. It's murder. Got me screaming, got me. This gritty city got me on song.
What's happening? We are live and direct. This is RSTV. This is a special broadcast, very special broadcast. Today, you know, I've been having hip hop on my mind. Hip hop has been on my mind because of the fact that many folks say that hip hop is a tool, one of our main propaganda tools that's been utilized for many of us over the past several decades, and this being considered the 50-year anniversary of hip-hop. You know, I wanted to continue in the tradition of bringing on legends. We know that earlier this year, right here on RSTV, we celebrated and commemorated the 55th year anniversary of the last poets, them, Gene Carn, the Watts Prophets, you know, Bilal Sunni Ali. We had a wonderful time with that. We know that on this platform, you've seen everyone from Brother Jay, from X-Clan to Wise Intelligent to Killer Mike, T.I., and all kinds of folks in between. Today, I wanted to bring on a brother who is no stranger to hip-hop. In fact, for many folks in our era, they was considered the CNN of hip hop. And I wanted to bring this brother on. I just reached out to him last minute, and he said, all right, let's go. So without further ado, without me giving no long, overdrawn situation, you already know who he is. I want y'all to give it up for man Chuck D in the building. What's up, Chuck? How you feeling?
Peace, Kalanji. Let's get at it. You know, that's giving CNN too much credit, man, 40 years later, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Way too much credit, you know, but I said that back in the day because in the 1980s, that's the period of R&B. That's Reagan and Bush and their effects on us directly. So much effect on us directly is that in 1975, I don't remember a hard drug or a gun in my 1 mile square town growing up on Roosevelt, Long Island. But by 1980, they were prevalent. And that was the Bush Reagan administration jumping off. And then all of a sudden there was an epidemic of drugs, the crack epidemic and genocide, and just a plethora of guns and the beginning of in a community societal gunfare that happened, and it was seeded at that point, but to unattended, answers to our call, like, yo, where are these guns coming from? This is why our kids are killing each other. And that was the 1980s. So, like I said, when rap music came out, what it started to do, it started to describe directly across the map and outside of the communities exactly our plight, who we was. This is us. Voices were heard permeating society through the uses of culture by default, because we didn't own the companies. We just did the artistry. And although the companies thought that they can own music, that's with the same mentality that people think that companies think that they can own people. So, but at the same time, we knew that there was a time that code would get across, and that was rap music and hip hop. So that's why I called it the CNN, because people would tune into rap and hip hop. If you came from New York, you could find out what was 3,000 miles away in a community that you probably would never ever visit because you couldn't afford to get there, but you would get an outside in look and a feel and a code. And especially when videos started jumping off, like in the late 80s,
Right.
Black Life was looking at Black life in motion picture for the first time directly from a demographic of age that they never saw before. We always had, when I was growing up, we had Jet and Ebony, and that was our Black United States of America GPS. And in the early days of Jet and Ebony, it was no laughing matter because there was so much written editorial detail in Jet every week. If you check out a Jet from 1960s and a Jet from 1980s, you're looking like a thorough read versus a comic book.
Right.
Yeah. I love the centerfolds. Can't lie. I'm gonna tell you straight up. Love the centerfolds, and I love the Jet top sold, top 20 singles and the albums. I love those parts too. But the detail of read, all you have to do is look back there. But then that's why we have to have diggers, great archivists, great people that retain and collect our information data and are able to like spit it out and detail out to ourselves and always use our information for our forwardness. But it's no myth, man. And there was a reason why Jet and Ebony was pushed to the back during the growth of motion pictures and us being seen on the screen a lot more in the 90s, and then also in the crossing of the century line. So Black America CNN, that was the code for that particular time, and that was rap music and hip hop.
No question. And like you said, they got way too much credit. When we look at it now, we like, shit, it ain't nowhere near what we thought it was, but that's what propaganda does, right?
Well, you got to have your prop agenda versus the propaganda.
True indeed. So, you just brought new meaning to R&B in the 80s. And for me, I'm 10 years younger than you, you know what I'm saying? So, just realizing, and I'm right from across the water. I'm in Connecticut, you in, LI, so it's the same culture, same music, same violence, same, you know what I'm saying? It's
Northeastern, New York metropolitan centric, DC, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Boston, and all the stuff surrounding that. Yes.
Without a doubt. But you said the whole R&B era, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Reagan and Bush. Well, Reagan and Bush was the final chapter of while he was alive, J. Edgar Hoover's COINTELPRO, which was kind of designed by J. Edgar Hoover's right nut to be able to join with his left nut to try to keep what he thought would be a rising of the underclass of people in a Black Messiah. So he would do anything in his power to prevent this. But we could say what he did to us as a Black program, but he had a whole bunch of agendas to stop. He's a little man that felt power, that thought he can also be his faction of the government. Last night just went out with the missus and saw killing of the, of the flower moon. And that was 4 hours, man. It was Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, and that movie was wild. But at the same
Sound
time,
wild.
excuse me, sir?
I said it sound wild. Robert De Niro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically it was what, they would deal with the Osage, area of this country and indigenous population that was dwindling post finding oil in those areas, and how, the white man culture just moved in systematically into that area and just took it over, really took the money, right? And even there was government intervention to try to prevent this senseless killing that was going on. So you had these paradoxes going on. And the movie was 4 hours, but our historical backdrop, when we have it, makes us look at films from a point of comparison and progression. When we actually look on the radar and see what's happening in Gaza and Palestine and in Israel on the war bombing tip, we should understand that this is parallel with a whole host of events over centuries, in the same tactic of, I want that land, but I'm going to interwove it into our spirit, not only spiritual belief, our religious beliefs of why that land is ours. And you can lie all kinds of different ways and make up all kinds of scriptures. You can create, you could, what they call it, like improvise, and this is our land. And then all of a sudden at the end result is like, if you don't get off this land, we're going to kill every single one of y'all, whatever way, whatever means necessary. And we're just going to take it. Fuck you, yo. So we should not be surprised. We should always answer the call with the actual facts and keep drilling the facts, even though they're going to be like, those ain't facts. Those ain't facts. Okay, what are the facts? So watching that movie right now in this time was a trip. It was 4 hours, damn near 4 hours. It was like, damn, I damn near forgot that I started off watching it on the same day I was watching it. But you got to stay at it, because history doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be dancing and shaking to the lights and entertaining you. History does not have to be entertaining. Sometimes our detail is so boring that it's meant to bypass you. So this is the thing about, we don't necessarily need flyways to get us to understand something. There's some people out there that have purposes to propel us forward, and they don't have an exciting bone, quote unquote, socially exciting bone in their body. However, their detail, their work, right, their selflessness needs to be assisted and helped, so people can actually get it to the masses. The powers that be, all they do with the masses is they move the M over. They treat the masses like the masses, So it's people like us who are maybe in some sort of entertainment or entertainment, or you got orators that's out there. Not every orator is the best knowledge of things, knower of things. They just happen to speak well. So you got to fill speakers with the actual facts of the people that spend time doing the detail. Dr. John Hendrik Clark, man, was a quiet man who studied and read until he was blind, man. He wasn't the best speaker, and but you had to lean in and listen to him for his detail, man, because his detail could save, our community, our life. It could save your life, really, if you really want to listen. So that's the difference. Like, I follow a lot of sports, and a lot of times sports just saves me from the insanity, because when you watch a basketball team, sometimes the best teams have players in different roles. And the ones that can't shoot probably are the best ones to rebound. And some of the ones that probably can't play in the starting or the back lineups are probably the best cheerleaders on the bench. It's all a team. But this whole thing, waiting for the individual to shine, has really set us back.
I mean, and I'm sitting here listening to you, and you're talking about creative resistance. You're talking about being able to take the message and put it in line for the masses, right? And you talk about how sometimes, it might not be what the masses are looking for, but it might even, it might end up growing on you. Like, for instance, I'm gonna tell you like this right here. The first time I heard you all, Public Enemy, first record, my brother, Rise in Power, my brother Jinx, he used to play, I came home for the summer and he used to play this tape. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is that? Because I'm not listening. All I hear is my Uzi weighs a ton. I'm hearing all this shit. I'm like, yo, he's like, yo, man, you ain't up on Public Enemy? I said, man, turn that shit off, man. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I'm not, it's a different sound.
Right.
But then I mess around one day and I hear some key words. They're like, oh, they saying some shit. So I go back and I start listening, and that's how, it was able to grab me. So then I'm a Public Enemy fan. But by this time, I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and everybody in the street, they bumping this Public Enemy, all the quote unquote drug dealers, all the street cats, the whole nine. It was a whole phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you probably been asked this 182,000 times, and I don't know how many people said, I wasn't really fucking with the music when it came out. Mm-hmm. But I say it, and I'm just going to ask you, like, when you all put this thing together, you came with creative resistance. You came with exactly what you was talking about. How difficult was that? And did you think that you were going to be able to tap into the arenas, literally the arenas that you have tapped into globally, coming up out of LI?
Pretty much, because we didn't, all of that is true and correct. We didn't set out to be the architects of it. The architecture and the blueprint was already made. Run DMC was already doing arenas. You might see Run DMC in our first tour, Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, and they played the old New Haven Arena at that time, not too far.
I already know. Yeah. I was there. Houdini, all those folks. Yeah.
They laid the second layer of the platform in order for us to plug what we have in it. If they did not do their first and second layers of pioneering, then it would have been a difficult throw. We have a background from media infiltration by learning how to do radio. We wanted to be radio jocks because we knew that if you give us 24 hours or a station signal in the New York metropolitan area, we're going to flip every young head out here anyway, because they won't be able to turn us off. So we're not going to have one voice to flip people. There will be many voices in the way that we bring it across, because we knew how to relate. We knew what people wanted. We knew what people wanted but didn't know how to hear it and how to get it. And we had our methodology in radio on how to bring it across. But it was no way they was going to give us a signal. You know what I'm saying? Of playing rap music and rap syndication at that particular time. We thought we were the best on the planet Earth on how to play you 4 hours of rap and hip hop music and have you coming away like totally fulfilled.
Word.
But no way we was going to get that. So our surrender was making records. And Rick Rubin chased me down for 2 years as an individual. But I said, nah. And I said, as a collective, as a team of what we were as DJs and radio hip hop connoisseurs, when we finally said, yeah, the plan is to do what we can do in 24 hours and 4 hours on the radio and break it down to an hour on a record. So it was really a truncated version of what we would do in our community anyway. It was very truncated. It was very much sort of like a blip. So every word counted, every step of the way counted. Our paradoxes in our group counted. If Professor Griff was over here, Flavor was over there. You couldn't describe in both of them. You couldn't. There was no precedence for them. Terminator X was a DJ. You understood what a DJ was. You understood what a rapper was, but that was kind of it. So we could build on that. And it was almost like Roosevelt was coming out to the world, because in Roosevelt, not only, did we not even sometimes even know each other well, a lot of times we didn't like each other. But that Public Enemy took all this and put it in one pot. And that's how we went at the world as a collective. Not always on the same accord, not always agreeing. But, to make like I said, in sports, you put it together with a winning lineup and the chemistry. And that's how that happened. Even if it's combustible, The chemistry is the thing that's going to cut through the noise.
Word. So did you all look at it as a cultural piece from the start, or was it when I say cultural, not even from the hip hop culture? So you all
no.
Word.
Kalonji, so hip hop culture is definitely the reason. I mean, I'm born in 1960, so I come from parents who if I came in the house different than how I left it, they're gonna stare at me like that. This ain't the Chuck I know. So our culture and our history and who we are was in me every step of the way. I'm close to my parents. I got to see them. You know what I'm saying? That's that was number one rule. Everybody sometimes wants to make a story up.
Right.
But you know, people used to say, yo, my people was 1,000 percenters. I mean, they would totally, so I come from that. I'm a chip off that block. When it came down to Public Enemy, I come in from a consortium where, you know, the leadership was really what we were, but they didn't see in it. People all saw the group. The group was a byproduct of the leadership that we were already doing. Bill Stephanie, Hank Shockley, you know, and then I had the group. My responsibility was to head the group. And then they had their own units, like Unity Force was really Roger, James, Griff, and they were our security. So they had their own unit that we plugged in for image value into Public Enemy, but they were their own organization. Hank, myself, and Bill was in the musical standpoint. So our changes was hip hop. Bill was the first Black executive, really one of the first executives at Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? So this was just a melting of all parts. This is Wu-Tang before the Wu-Tang, but we all was the MCs. You know what I'm saying? Right. I was the only MC. I really was the only MC. Everything else was a whole bunch of different categorized parts. And
sort of like Black Watch. How Black Watch became, not just...
Yeah, because Brother Jay was the only MC in Black Watch in the beginning. Others came down the line, but you know, Lumumba wasn't an MC. He was already son of a political activist, and then sort of like that. So, but we were the first because we did real things in our community from the organizations that comprised of Public Enemy. So putting it on wax and putting it on vinyl was almost like a you know, the thing that hits your synapses, like, oh, okay, a lot of code. It's sort of like would get it across in one statement and one image of what we were reaching for. When you looked at us, it's like, wow, this looks like it's something out of the Panthers. It looks like it, you know, you go into, I mean, we didn't have visual movement. We had still pictures that define our imagery. You know, I'm an audio person, so my thing is like, okay, I'm heard, you know. So from the jump, man, to me, I've always been a culturalist. As a matter of fact, I tell people I'm an earthist and a culturalist. So I'm not going to say I'm one religion, and I'm not going to say I'm from one country. You know, I know that you have a lot of people that basically want to, you know, I tip my hat to FBAs, you know, fundamentally Black, you know, Americans, because of the call for reparations. But I kind of like leave it to that because my travels to 116 countries around the planet says that Black people have been treated the worst across the planet Earth in these recent times, 500 years. So there is a commonality of the darker skinned people of the planet Earth needing to consolidate in a common statement of we don't dig this white supremacy bullshit. You know what I'm saying? No. So I don't get into those conversations, man. I'm pretty much an owner. Excuse me, sir.
I said you're not set tripping.
No, my statement, like I said earlier, like, you know, I'm a owner to what I think and a slave to what I say. So I'm very measured when it comes down, because there's a commonality in all our organizations, in all our movements against white supremacy. So we can't get caught up, like, you know, spending most of our time fighting and yelling at each other. That's some bullshit. It doesn't really go nowhere. That's a cul-de-sac, man. You know, cul-de-sac. You pull up in the cul-de-sac, the most you're going to keep going is in a circle. And I ain't about that, man.
Word. So I mean, coming from this era and understanding, your mission, what the purpose was, which of course was genius because you had, as you mentioned, you had one extreme to the next. Public Enemy was like, it was the streets. You know what I'm saying? You went from
Well, it wasn't just the streets. It was all of the above. It was the streets. It was history. It was the
Black society.
boulevard to the bourgeois, man. We did question things that had power in the Black community, like the quote unquote Black media, the quote unquote Black church. Those particular things. We didn't necessarily go on attack on those things, but we did like okay, you guys got to step up in the 80s because we are under a different type of attack that y'all probably never seen before.
Word. So you went from, y'all came in the game and during that particular era, y'all ushered in a whole new movement because, we talk about the whole golden age of hip hop. We talk about, culture, everybody from, you all to the Lakim Shabazz, the King Sons, you know what I mean? The X-Clans, as we talked about, and so many others in between. White Poor Righteous Teachers, and so many others that stepped in the game, the Brand Nubians, so on and so forth. During that particular time, during that moment, that energy, that vibe, the Latifahs and everybody, it was at a certain space. And it seemed, although these particular artists, you all were signed to, in many cases, if not major labels, major distribution, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that particular moment, everything seemed to be up. It seemed to be fire. Where do you feel the game switched? And I ain't trying to, I'm not coming with the whole, let's blame hip hop.
No, that's all right if you do. I mean, a lot of the answers probably have to go into a read of a 300, 400 page book in a time where people have been discouraged from reading, 3 paragraphs. So a lot of this stuff can't be told in podcasts unless it's sitting there all day. And how much time do we have when we get away from face-to-face conversations? You have to get into details, 6-7 hour conversation. I mean, Public Enemy in our beginnings, when we was at WBAU, we all would be at the radio stations having conversations for 4 to 5 hours on trying to really take apart what was coming at us in the 80s. So how are you going to take a 5 or 6 conversation face to face, you heart to heart and head to head, and truncate it to a bunch of sentences through a signal when the most people are going to hear you is through a speaker or checking you out through a screen? Now today's screens, everybody's a screen agent, and everybody gets everything through a screen, which brings us up into another chapter in this century with 2 more generations added. That is a complex DNA to white supremacy like we've never seen or experienced before. Going back to the original question, at that particular time, you had mechanical situations that changed rap music from being a singles medium into an album medium, meaning that more companies could jump on it, especially the major record labels, because they were in the business of selling albums. Independents had sold singles from 1979, the inception of the first single that we probably could say, Sugar Hill's Gang Rappers Delight, in 1979 October. And the owners of that record company was Sylvia Robinson and her husband Joe Robinson, who also had been in the music business since the 50s. And they were intertwined with a lot of people in the distribution of their record label. You had Bobby Robinson, who also was a record entrepreneur, brother from the 50s as well, in the 40s even. He put out records in the 40s, and he was located in Harlem. Then they weren't related. Then you had white entrepreneurs and white and Jewish independent record labels like Fred Beneo from Select, who started his label, I think, 1983 or 4. Corey Robbins and Steve Plotnicki started Profile Records in 1981. Tommy Silverman, later on joined by Monica Lynch, started their record label in 1980. Tommy Boy. So you had, and you had Eddie O'Loughlin and Next Plateau. So you had independent record companies that use old distribution one-stop services to get basically one or two songs out there on the 12-inch record, which found its prominence in the middle of the 1970s at the beginning and the crest of disco. So this just followed that wave with a new music. So that got across the world. And when it turned, but the major record labels didn't want to touch it because they're like, we're not in the business of selling one or two records. We want to sell 8 records or 8 songs. So in 1987 and 1986, it was shown that rap music could sell albums, which threw on the lights for the major record labels to get involved. And there was a bunch of different reasons why that happened. Because what? You were able to take a record now, and what was the listening of choice in the middle of the 1980s? A cassette.
No doubt.
And what company comes out with a cassette player that most people could use that was different from the big boxes that people were used to seeing that they called ghetto blasters in the early 1980s? But, a woman ain't going to be carrying a ghetto blaster like that. So Sony comes out with the Walkman. You could go on a train and actually have your little headphones and listen to your cassette. That changed the business, even changed the business so much. We signed with the company CBS, right, which had been around for tens of scores of years. But then Sony, which was a manufacturer from Japan, bought CBS, meaning that the company that makes the hardware can own the software. And that made the not only album sales go to another level, but cassettes happen to be the hip hop album's choice format, which allowed majors to get involved, which means if you make an album, you got to make more than one song. So now you got to deliver, 10 songs or 12 songs. So that opened in the industry metastasized. So even when you have artists that made songs, even if they wasn't feeling at their blackest at that particular time, why not? Even so, a Latif, a Chill Rob G, people were doing that. At least if they was even too short, they did one song for the hood. And if they wasn't just the one hood song person to deliver one of their 10 songs, they might have been like a Poor Righteous Teachers that did 8 to 9 songs. Public Enemy was known to do that whole album of this focus going at us in this way. But we showed it could be done. And so even everybody said, well, if I'm making 12 songs, I got to be diverse delivering an album. So when people touched upon those areas, it was almost like Kodak. It also went under the trenches or the barbed wire of what you could say and what you can't say, because nobody was paying attention as long as they delivered 12 songs. And this ushered in the 90s. And then rap music was album-oriented music where one artist could give you 12 to 10 songs, many cases maybe 16 to 20 songs. And in those songs was a bunch of jewels that were being dropped and even highlighted by the community and say, okay, they might have been a gangster, but at least they did this song for their mama. So it was about what radio stations or what situations out there picking that particular fruit from that tree to spread it in the community instead of the one that would be promoted as the lowest hanging fruit. So at least back then, that was, and then that shift and then that change of the lowest hanging fruit was one of the things that went in line with COINTELPRO. It's like, think less of yourself. Yeah, of course, the word nigga is going to be something that you sound more familiar with than brother, we came from another time, saying I'm born in 1960. You couldn't use the N-word frivolously. If you was black, people would be like, yo, man, I come better than that. Because that precedent was set by people like Last Poets, Watts Prophets,
H-Rap Brown.
James Brown, H-Rap Brown, Nina Simone. Yeah, if they used the word nigger, they was using in the context of how, white supremacy treated us and looked at us as, and they used it in context, but it wasn't one of those think you could flip it to embracement. Yes, maybe it was, but that's what they call pool hall language. Like inside a pool hall or inside areas of ill dispute, yeah, there all kinds of language goes down because that's the area in the context that language prevails. Doesn't mean that it's gonna roll into your everyday life and up in your living room and up on your front stoop, because there was always a protection for those that don't know, especially the children. They will learn in time what it is, what it ain't, what to get close to, what to stay away from. There was always that. There was always looking out for those that ain't ready and giving them what? Seeds, and then growing the seeds with water instead of gasoline. So these conversations actually they run deep, but you're also on the clock to try to get it out in truncation so you could get it across, so people will be alert to it and embrace it instead of being turned off by the detail. The detail in the 21st century right now has already been avoided as the COINTELPRO plans. Like, you got all the information. Matter of fact, you got a computer on your hip. Matter of fact, you got a computer closest to your brain as possible. But, it's the whole adage of, yeah, you can make a horse see the water. You can make them go to the water, but you can't make them drink it. And they rely on something, while history has so much thoroughness and detail and love, and we understand, and we see the hate, we see the despair, we see the argument, we see the treatment and all that, but at the same time, inside the detail is all the attributes that keep hope alive. But that's been played into certain different ways. So now it's all a rugby football game at the same time with everybody in it. You need referees and umps that say, yo, time out for a minute. Violation over there. Oh. And we were going through this century with no referees for our forwardness at all.
That's hard body right there. That's when the sport in you come out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You use it to the joint. But I want to ask you, because I mean, your answer was definitely an interesting piece, because a lot of folks just go to the like, well, it was the era and everybody was conscious and so on and so forth. And if you were there, like we were there, we know that's bullshit, but it sounds good to tell the kids, right? It sounds good for the water room, right? For the coffee room.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you said that basically it slipped under the cracks. They didn't really care. They was like, let's get this money, right? Do you think the commercialization, because you go back, now we take this back to the 90s a little bit, and we skip around a little bit, but you look at like Snoop. Yes. And with Snoop, he was signed to Interscope, and Interscope was owned by Seagram's. So for many people, they didn't understand that Tropicana, Seagram's, and Interscope was the same company. So Snoop did this big ass commercial, and now everybody in the hood drinking gin and juice. You understand what I'm saying? Which was masterful for the enemy. Mm-hmm. Do you feel the commercialization was it a multi-pronged attack, or do you just feel that that was just capitalism and they was just looking to make a dollar and not necessarily destroy the community as a whole? And how does all of that fit in? Because you talk about the quote unquote N-word, right?
Yeah.
How does that
all of the above, Kalanji? All of the above. All of the above. The detail is deeper than it's like barbershop talk goes deeper than the haircut. Or I should say goes deeper than the time of the haircut. I'm like, yes, all of the above. Not everybody behind the momentum of our demise is a mastermind. They might say, yeah, it ain't about black and white, it's about the green. And in their little cubicle pocket, they might have a certain sense of innocence to what they're doing, but it's like almost like the dude or the company that makes the iron bolts for the shackles back in 1600. They just making iron bolts and shackles. They might have no idea that these shackles gonna be used to grab, 5 million of us from West Africa. Have no idea. The sum of the parts lead up to the capitalism and us being blinded to the breadcrumbing of the summing of all the parts makes us reduced to the shock of it all. Because it's trauma, bro. It's trauma. It's so much trauma, right? It's scar tissue there that you keep trying to repair the scar tissue, but it goes deeper it goes to the bone. Racism and white supremacy goes to our bone, bro. It goes to our RNA, DNA, right? So yeah, do some of the, let's call them adversaries. Are they all conscious of the fact that they part of somebody else's demise? No, but that's when you got to make, collective voices makes people pay attention. Because the number one thing that people say is like, "Oh, I didn't know."
Right. So
I didn't know. I didn't know gets a lot of people out of trouble. Sometimes it's like, "Yo, fuck, I don't know." Well, this is what you should know, and boom, 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 and in these times you got to be quick at that.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Right. No, and I unite with the initial ignorance, but of course we know that after a while, the shackle maker knew that all the motherfucking shackles wasn't just, they weren't just like, people just like how my shackles look. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
But that particular time, the God is green at that point.
Right.
I'm an artist. Quincy Jones told me this. He says, yeah, you be about artists, but when money talks, God walks out the room. I get that.
Right.
My other good friend, Michael Collier, the comedian, he said, when I told him that line, he says, yeah, some people ask God to leave or tell him to leave.
That's real shit.
Right.
That's
So
real shit.
I mean, it's a wrestling match, it's a dance, and it's a fist fight at the same time. The problem with white supremacy is like, fuck the dance, the wrestling match, and the fist fight. We'll just drop a bomb on it, and wow, that's what it is. So as soon as I get some momentum, you're just gonna bomb me out like that. That's what it is. And then that's something we always gotta be ready for. I hear a lot of talk about, yo, man, what they're doing in Gaza is genocide. Yeah, but war is genocide no matter which way. There ain't no such thing. There's no polite war. There ain't no, man, straight up and down. War is never the answer. War is, that's genocide. War is war, man. War is like, I'm going to obliterate you off the face of the earth. Fuck y'all.
Right.
We don't want to be warred on. We being warred on mentally, physically, and from the jump. It's been genocide in that area. So that area is so toxic that the fact that people have said, damn, can we live here too? The minute that somebody throws an ideology in that this belongs to us, the indigenous people, the planet Earth, never looked at the planet Earth that way. The Earth don't belong to nobody, but it belongs to everybody.
Right.
This displacement of human beings because I have this right is just like, it's the most insane thing ever. It's like, what? So, this is a speck in the universe as we know it. We better share and take care of this rock. And then once you start pouring rights in there and stuff like that, even indigenous people are in this side of the world, when somebody came across and said, we're gonna take this land. We'll call you Indians because we fucked up and lost. We don't know where we at, but y'all Indians because y'all look like them. And we're gonna take this land and we're gonna call this river what we want to call it. And so the indigenous people looked at them like they were crazy. Like, how the fuck you gonna take a mountain? What the fuck you gonna take a river?
Right. But they did it anyway. Right.
And people thought it was inconceivable. Like, how you gonna take a mountain in a river? How you gonna just take it? I mean, it's here. We could share it. We could, we're gonna go to the river, wash some things in it, get some fish, do some stuff, and then go back or whatever. And they might have had if they had conflict, it was basically like, I don't know why you here with your intentions and you not even greeting me warm.
Right.
Or better yet, like, I don't even know why you here. So if any time that those battles, and I'm just truncating that too, got confrontational, is because the energy was felt out. The energy was red, man. You know what I'm saying? So this has been going on for thousands of years on indigenous people saying, well, damn, how the hell you gonna own the earth?
I mean, and thinking about it, you know, just from that basic perspective, just saying, okay, you know, a group of individuals, a group of motherfuckers can come along and say that this is my house now. You understand what I'm saying? And the wild shit about it is not only them declaring that it's their home or by whatever right they came up with. Sometime they wrote the shit on the spot. But also the fact that the descendants of these thieves come in and keep the tradition. Now, had that been you or I or any other African that decides that we go invade any other land and take it over, everybody's paying for it, including the offspring, because you'll be guilty of receiving stolen goods at the very least. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to give that shit back up because this doesn't belong to you. It was stolen. We all knew it was stolen.
Well, this is why the world conversation of you know, the darker people of the earth have gotten the most hell. And then as far as when you want to talk capitalism, all right, whatever that would mean in the 21st century, it's like, well, the darker people of the earth are the poorest, trying to clamor for whatever the capital is to keep them to survive as opposed to live. Right there, you got a paradox that is going to be hard to climb out of itself. So our details, man, are very important, especially in these times. And our conversations with each other. Yes, culture is the thing that buys us time with ourselves. We want to consume our times with good energy to feel good, man. We want good food, man. We want to be able to breathe air that's not toxic. We want to be able to provide and also take in energy from our fellow human beings. We want to be in line with nature and the species. It's a bunch of things that we want as human beings while we're here. But this has been tripped up by ideologies that have been enforced upon the planet in the name of greed, man. Greed, selfishness, bullying. We talk about schools and bullying. Come on, man. You know, the United Nations was a building that was supposed to be built to kind of give the little voice of nations equal platform with the big voices. Supposed to. But early in its inception, they didn't fuck that up just like they did with the League of Nations, and it wasn't meant to work. So that building on the east side of Manhattan, they might as well turn it into lofts and condos because its ineffectiveness has been greatly engineered by the gigantic countries and nations and ideologies of this planet that has continued it in its lopsidedness. I mean, look, how many people from New York have gone to the United Nations? Hardly a few. How many people in these last two generations even know what that building is and where it is? Last time I was there, there were speeches outside by the Prime Minister of Iran, Gaddafi, and also Chavez all on the same day, and then none of them are here. Well, the Iran Prime Minister is here, but Gaddafi was gone not too long afterwards when they let him speak for about 5 hours. And then Cesar Chavez had cancer and he died. So
Hugo Chavez.
Hugo Chavez, yes. Talk about Cesar Chavez is a great fighter. And,
no doubt. I was going to say he's back there for real. He was back there with Caesar.
Yeah. Whenever I thought about Hugo Chavez, I think about Sitco.
No doubt.
Zitco. When people's like, I'm gonna go get my gas at Zitco because I heard it's coming from Venezuela. But you know, the more we know, there are umpteen layers that we don't know, and sometimes we have to be careful when we claim to know when we don't know. You know, that doesn't mean be silent for that fact, but it means to always, pay attention to detail. Maybe have collective quiet voices, man, because the screens. I remember very clearly back in the day when I told people, I said, yo, online, man, get an email address. And it was the resistance of, man, I ain't a big brother. Yo, man, I have a big brother watching me, man. I ain't getting on that damn internet shit. I ain't fuck that computer bullshit.
Right,
20 years later, they up there looking up their old girlfriends on Facebook. Got Instagram accounts. I'm like, what happened, dog? Well, I mean, that's the listen. Technology, Kalanji. Maybe I'll do another periodic conversation with you because I like talking to you. These are wide, expanding chapters on the science of a book that are in perpetuity and acting upon us right now. The area of technology and its effects on us as a species is so wide and in effect, and then white supremacy pours heavily into that, galvanized by its involuntary uses.
Word up.
I mean, look, technology, smartphones only started in 2007, bro.
That's real shit.
There's only smartphones anyway wasn't here at the turn of the century. Smartphones embedded in 2007, 2008.
That's wild. I mean, just hearing it right now coming from you, we often forget that. We often forget that we didn't always walk around with a laptop or, like you said, or email address or none of that shit. And now we're in an era, in a space that if you don't have a social media page, the motherfucker look at you like you lost your mind. Let alone a cell phone. If you say you don't have a cell phone, they look at you like man, man, you need some type of assistance or something because you must be poor. You know what I mean? This is how society looks at you. I want to I know you got to run. Ask you a couple more basic questions.
We could do this periodically. If you could do this periodically, if you allow me to do so. Like I told you earlier, like scheduling stuff. I got like 100 podcasts. Everybody got a podcast. I like what you do. We know that we ain't about playing no games, getting it across. So I like the exchange, and because there's so many layers of learning, and this is, I guess, how a body of our quote unquote demographic, right?
Right.
It's okay to learn in layers because white supremacy and the hate comes at us in so many different unidentifiable or recognizable layers that it's all right to know this much and then grow to this much instead of saying I got to zoom to 0 to 100 on knowledge for my defense in a minute. And the world don't work like that. Erosion doesn't work like that.
No doubt. I unite with that. Like I said, I know you gotta run like Carl Lewis. You know what I'm saying? But but definitely I welcome you.
Yeah, I got yard work. So that's real talk, bro. I got yard work, and really seriously, people can talk about this, that, or whatever, man. It's nothing like having your spouse be like, yo, we got yard work.
Boy, listen, well, I don't want no problems because I ain't got nowhere for you to live. You know what I'm saying? Hate to have Chuck sleeping on the couch. You know what I mean? But definitely appreciate you coming on last minute, and let's get it in. Relatively soon. Whenever you got spare time, whatever, hit me up and we can make it happen.
Okay,
my brother, I appreciate you coming on. Keep winning, and
well, the thing about it, man, you battle.
Word up.
And like back in the sports thing, you set out to win, but at the same time, you got to, don't let a win get to your head or a loss get to your heart. I said that, and he got game.
Word up.
You got to get up and like, all right, well, we're gonna get knocked down. There's a lot of times we might get knocked out. You got to get back up and keep swinging. That's what it is.
No doubt. Well, we got it, man. Get that yard work done. You know what I'm saying? I don't want the missus looking for me because you didn't mow the lawn. You know what I'm saying? Stay on point, man. You check it out. RSTV. This is Chuck D from the legendary hip hop group Public Enemy. We appreciate him stopping through. Of course, we welcome him back to the platform as time permits. Stay tuned. We have a very busy day today. We'll be talking about Rochelle McGee. We'll have his attorney on later on at 5:00 today, and a few other folks. So we appreciate you checking us out at RSTV. Continue to support our work, our effort, our energy, and we will continue to win. Stay on point. FTP movement in the building. RSTV. We out. Black Power Media. Subscribe.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one. Well, the battle is to love yourself and function in society where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares, mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and their strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces winners on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution. It's real solutions. Well, we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution. Well, my inner me, really a mirror for the galaxy. New time, brand new paradigms, new contracts to sign. They thought that this would all be televised, though it's happening right before our very eyes. It's on the inside, with their guns cocked. When that rock drops, standing on the rooftop, praying that the mountaintop can live inside the valley. People tell me the reward is somewhere off in heaven, like heaven's only in the sky. A chariot's a swinging, like God is something separate from yourself, from your wealth, from your lover, from your neighbor. Oh, your savior is coming in your own name, coming with the face the same. Real revolution. It's real solutions. Well, we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution. Where my enemy is really a mirror for the galaxy. And so we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed. Oh, my head spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces winners on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. It's real revolution, producing real solutions. Because we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Real revolution. Where my enemy, it's really a mirror for the galaxy.